Hello and welcome to Cherries Red Army, which is now a 1.5k YouTube channel. Bournemouth fans, well done. And any fans who follow this channel, because I know we have some opposition fans who also like the content. So thank you very much. And on this video, please do smash the like button. Help us get to 50 likes because we've got an excellent journalist on our video for this conversation. It's Dan Davis. How are you, mate?
I'm good, yeah. Massive congratulations on the milestone, by the way. I was really pleased for you. Well deserved. Great content, and it's been a pleasure to come on the season. So thank you for that. Personally, I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's weird not being a Leicester at the weekend, I have to say. But yeah, I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking. I'm all right.
Yeah, because some of you might know that Dan Davis has been doing some great work for AFC Bournemouth, but it has come to a short end with Dorset Live, Dan, and you did tweet about it last week. Some people might not have known, but bring us up to speed. But we are going to take this opportunity to get your thoughts on the season for Bournemouth up to this point and where you think Bournemouth will finish at the end. But just bring us up to speed because I know a lot of Bournemouth fans were disappointed when they saw your tweet last week.
The reaction was incredibly humbling, to be honest. It was nice to see that I've provided something for the fans to enjoy the season. It's something that I've wanted to do from the first minute, to be honest. So to have sort of seen the proof of that is nice. The comments, the messages I got were just brilliant. So I can't thank the fan base enough. It's been the sort of best privilege of my career, if that's the way to word it, to have sort of worked alongside and sort of created content for such a passionate fan base. So yeah, that's something I'll miss incredibly. But yeah, my coverage is no more. I've stepped away from my role as AFC Bournemouth correspondent, unfortunately, much earlier than I sort of obviously anticipated, but there we go. But to be honest, my sort of takeaway feeling is, yeah, one of pride, one of just sheer enjoyment, really. It was a pleasure to be at games, to speak to some amazing people in and around the club. Like I said, to communicate with supporters. So yeah, I'm taking away nothing but good memories from it. And obviously, I still live in Bournemouth. I'll still be sort of following Bournemouth. So yeah, I'm not going anywhere. So don't worry about that. But yeah, I just want to say thank you again. The reaction was incredible. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that.
Really looking forward to having a good conversation with you, Dan. And you, the fans, please do use those comments to tell us how you're feeling about Dan and his content this year. Look, showing some love in the comments and subscribe to the channel. Let's have a good conversation then, Dan. And let's start with last weekend. And that was a league double over Leicester City. It was 1-0 to the Cherries. It was Phil Billing again in his usual position this time. It was a good performance from the Cherries, most dominating performance I think I've seen all season. However, that was a poor Leicester team, probably the poorest team I've seen all season.
I'd have to agree with you. Yeah, obviously I caught up with the highlights. I actually had the sheer joy of being in a pub garden in the sun, watching kind of the results of that come through. So that made a nice change from how I've spent most of this season. But to be honest, just to see, yeah, obviously I mainly sort of stayed up to date with it on Twitter and that kind of stuff, just to see the feeling among the fan base. It was very much like, we're on top here. We just need to find the goal. Kind of the story of the season that just didn't quite happen, didn't quite fall. You think, oh, is this going to be one of those days? But yeah, they just kept knocking at the door and got what they deserved, to be honest. Like Philip Billing in that 10, I love him there. I think he's brilliant. Another goal for him. I mean, that's a surprisingly poor rating for Ryan Christie, to be fair. I thought he was excellent as well. So in terms of the all-round performance, really, really pleasing. Ultimately, they got the job done. In a relegation scrap, you just need the 3 points and get out. So it did help where Leicester were poor. They were passive. But I think for Bournemouth to have sort of come away with those 3 points, it's a massive springboard for the rest of the season. A double as well over a relegation rival, surprise relegation rival. So obviously we can now sort of look ahead for the rest of the season and try and kick on, taking away the positives from the King Power, of which there were loads and loads and loads.
There definitely was. And that Ryan Christie rating, I mean, I love SofaScore, but I thought it was broken over the weekend.
Really
He got
low.
the worst rating.
Yeah,
6.4.
really, really low.
However, how they probably generate those ratings is based on shots and the creations, and actually didn't really do a lot from that point of view. But Ryan Christie is someone that I think will struggle to get into this 11 once the team is fully fit, in form. And it's sort of, you've got those players like Traore and Tavernier. I really struggle how he fits in it, but he does a job. He started on that right-hand side, clearly to sort of double up on Harvey Barnes. It did mean that we had a bit of an issue with Dango over the other side. He felt less comfortable. But yeah, it was sort of two wingers. One had a good day, one had an off day, and Gary O'Neill had a decision to make before that first goal.
I mean, Gary O'Neill had a very good day, so it deserves a lot of credit for switching up as early as he did. I mean, Dango, it's a couple of poor games from him now. I kind of feel like, obviously, he came in for a big fee, and he's a young lad, and there's some real talent there. He's got a real high talent ceiling, but I kind of, from the first minute he came in, I was a little bit like, I hope kind of the hopes of the club staying up aren't pinned on the shoulders of a young lad who, is still relatively new to senior football. So I think we're kind of seeing peaks and troughs from him, which were obviously to be expected. So no shame in giving him a start, saying, what's not quite working, take him off. Obviously, Taff came on and offered a different dimension there. So that solution was good. And yeah, Ryan Christie, obviously, I mean, to be honest, most of the times he's played this season, always in my player ratings, I seem to more reflect on what he does in a structure. So helping Bournemouth play through the shape a little bit. He's diligent defensively. He'll just run for 90 minutes and has no qualms about doing sort of the dirty stuff like that. So I think he's a real professional, and it's nice to sort of see the plaudits he's got coming his way, because like you say, he's kind of slipped down the pecking order a little bit. It's not easy for him to get in that team now with these new signings that have come in. So to see him still, working away, keen to get back in the team. Obviously, O'Neill was impressed with him in training. The squad love him. So yeah, I think he's finally kind of getting that spotlight, and that's 2 games against Leicester. He's been pretty good, and to be fair, so maybe he's kind of found his home. Who knows? But I'm really pleased for him, to be honest. And he was a massive reason why Bournemouth got the 3 points at the weekend.
Yeah, just like Dom Solanke likes Fulham, maybe Ryan Christie likes Leicester. His only goal contribution this season against Leicester If he can add in those areas, that's where it lets him down a little bit, is the one goal, no assists. Yes, he's been in and out of the team, but we saw a bit of that last season in the Championship as well. He had quite an explosive start, but then it dried up a little bit. And I think if Christie can add goals and assists to his game with his energy, with his experience, the way he holds the ball, wins your free kicks when you're trying to take time out the game, he's definitely a squad player. He can definitely be a little bit more. But when you've got these new creative players that are coming in, and when they start hitting the ground running, they've got nice feet about them, and that's where I think he'll struggle long term to be a regular. Another player I really want to talk about from the weekend is Chris Mepham. Now, this is a player that was arguably player of the season up to the World Cup. Seemingly frozen out, not quite frozen out, but just couldn't get a spot on the bench. Comes back in because Senesi wasn't risked. That was the correct thing to do. Don't risk Senesi when you've got 4 or 5 great centre-backs at similar level. And Chris Mepham comes back into the team and shows his professionalism and delivers a man of match performance again. I gave it to Billing, but arguably you can give it to Mepham, Neto. But your thoughts on Chris Mepham?
I love Chris Mepham, to be honest. I fully agree. I think up to the World Cup break, he was Bournemouth's player of the season, and then since the restart, kind of dropped out of the team a little bit. Left out of 2 squads, and you kind of think, but I think from my point of view, that's definitely down to, there's actually a lot of competition in the squad now, and obviously the club are kind of keen to get Elie Zabani sort of in and around it now. So you've only got a limited, I guess, number of spots on the bench for, do you need sort of 2-3 centre-halves on there? Not necessarily. So I think he just very much missed out on sporting merit. It seems to be a thing that O'Neill tries to do, doesn't always succeed in doing it, but tries to sort of say, look, like if these lads are performing well, they'll keep their spots for obvious reasons. So yeah, it was nice to see him back in the team. Again, he only really played because Senesi wasn't risked. So again, he could have been sat on the bench of the King Power and missed out. But yeah, it's that just goes to show the strength and depth in that position now. It's a nice dilemma for O'Neill to have. I am surprised. Like, I do think he is one of Bournemouth's player of the seasons, if not the player of the season still, to be honest. I think he's been outstanding in every department, decent on the ball. Sort of plays it safe, but that's okay, to be honest. I feel like sometimes when he tries to be a little bit too ambitious with possession, that's kind of where the slip-ups come in, as we've seen in the past. So it's kind of nice to see him back to basics. I think that the style that Bournemouth play, especially before the World Cup, actually suited him a lot, which is kind of like focus on the basics of defending, that kind of stuff. So it's no surprise that he goes to Leicester, he starts. His confidence is sky high. He does all the basics well. He's throwing his body in the way of shots. He's commanding, he's talking. And yeah, I think he just suits Bournemouth system, I think. And I mean, that's the thing. Jack Stevens, you can't take him out. He's been outstanding. I think he has to sign permanently this summer. Senesi, I think he's been great. Obviously, maybe a little bit risky at times, but that Bournemouth knew exactly what they were signing. So, and Zabani as well, is 24 million, I think it was, comes in and sort of in and around it now up to fitness. So there's some real issues for Mepham to sort of navigate to try and get back into a regular starting spot. But he's been superb, to be honest. And I think that supporters can sort of be confident in the fact that if he isn't starting week in, week out, naturally there'll be frustration, as there is with every footballer, you like to think. But he'll just work hard in training and get back in the team. And when he plays, he never lets Bournemouth down, to be honest. So fair play to him. It's been a great turnaround this time at the club, to be honest.
And if Bournemouth sign another left back that could come in next season, he might even be pushed out again with Lloyd Kelly. So it's a real tough ask for Chris Mepham. But what I got to give to Chris Mepham, especially if we go back to that Brentford moment, he could have had a fight or flight moment. And what I love about Chris Mepham is he has just continued to work hard. And I think last season he changed the way he was as a centre-back. I think he took no risks. If it had to go into the stands, it went into the stands. Now, that might have been a message that Scott Parker delivered to him, where he just defended so simple last season, and now he's getting more confident. He is taking those little bit of risks that a lot of managers and head coaches want from centre backs to play out. Sometimes he gives the ball away. I can remember at Arsenal he was giving it away sloppy a few times, but really Chris Mepham can be really proud of himself. And again, I was comfortable when he came into the team. And we're going to talk about some other players later on, Dan, because I'm going to get your thoughts on who you think has been one of the best players for Bournemouth this season, who you think is going to influence the final 8 games. But as a summarisation of the season, if we go back to when Parker was trying to prepare the squad for a Premier League campaign, we all would have taken 17th at the start. Obviously, the season evolves, new ownership, new expectations, money spent in the window. We're currently 15th, but how would you summarise where Bournemouth are right now?
It's been an absolute roller coaster, to be honest. It was the first piece I wrote, I think, in my previous role about like how this Bournemouth's history is just topsy-turvy. It's up and down. It's never ever simple. And I expected as much this season, but no one could have expected how the season would play out. It has just been crazy. Obviously, Scott Parker self-sabotaging, getting sacked. Gary Neal comes in, studies the ship, and then it all goes a bit sour. World Cup break slaps in the middle of a season, takeover bubbling beneath the surface, that then comes through. Money spent in January, O'Neill permanently appointed, talks with Bielsa, kind of the ambition shifted, and suddenly you're like, oh, here we go, we can kind of push up a little bit. And then again, inconsistencies, poor performances, O'Neill under real pressure from the fan base, and then kind of slowly but surely, the last sort of 8 games, it's been again up and down, but 4 wins from 8 kind of tells a picture where, as you said, point of the game, you stay up and Bournemouth are on track currently. So, yeah, I think coming into the season, Bournemouth were sort of really heavy favourites among critics to go down, be one of the favourites going down, if not the basement club. The fact that they are 15th, there's a long way to go. Obviously, you can't settle on that, but if that's where Bournemouth were to finish at the end of the season, I mean, anything from 17th and above is, you take it. I think then you kind of look to rebuild in the summer, sort of say, is this the long-term vision that we have, the coaching staff, the squad, the makeup of various parts of the club? Is that something that you stick or twist with? But the main sort of objective now, that's what O'Neill was tasked to do, is just survive. So if they do that, it's been a successful season. Obviously, it's been an interesting, dramatic way to get there. But I think I've got full confidence now that they will stay up. I will admit a few weeks ago it didn't look good, but they've turned it around, to be fair to them. Obviously, some massive, massive games against some real relegation rivals coming up. If they can negate those, get some points from them, they'll be absolutely fine. Like I say, confidence in the squad is great. There's a real togetherness. O'Neill, I think, is kind of, as much as he is still naive in certain moments, I think comes from inexperience. He's certainly delivering in the right areas now, which is good. So, slowly but surely, it's like things are kind of falling into place. It's been a long process, but I think I'm definitely optimistic, and hopefully the fan base is kind of feeling that way as well, after, especially the last few weeks, how they've played out.
Yeah, I mean, I was optimistic at the start of the season. I actually put us in 17th. I can remember early on, I think I had Forest down there, Southampton and Leeds. After Saturday, and even before Saturday, a few weeks ago, I was chucking Leicester into the conversation because they did look quite bad. And as you're talking about Gary O'Neill there, everyone pretty much should know how I feel about the appointment of Gary O'Neill. It's never been personal. It was just felt like the ambition was a little bit miss for me, Dan. You know, when you come in and Bill Foley's talking about training grounds, stadium, 60 million in the January transfer window, and then you just need someone that has got the experience, got the knowledge, can network the world and really take this squad to maybe mid-table wherever we can go to. Now, let's talk about Gary O'Neill, because we got that win at the weekend, and it's a performance that I expect us to win, but we just can't seem to string back-to-back performances, back-to-back wins. We haven't actually done any back-to-back wins all season. And then you hear, like, there's some really good journalists out there, Dan, that around the country in the UK. Stephen Warnock the other day sort of comparing almost Jose Mourinho to Gary O'Neill. But I do feel like it's baffling me that they seem to be watching 3 or 4 minutes and not seeing the 90 minutes, because the fan base knows that for all of the good results that Gary's had, there's been a few games that he's really messed up. And I've actually picked 9 where tactically he's either started wrong or it's just gone to pot during the game. And 17 points, I think we've dropped from winning positions. And I actually think, although I can't prove it, Dan, that a different appointment probably has us almost safe by now.
Yeah, so when it was kind of that 2-horse race between O'Neill and Bielsa, the first time I heard the name Bielsa, how can you not get excited by the idea of someone like that coming in, taking charge, overhauling the club from top to bottom? The way that he plays football, front foot, risky, one-on-one defending. I think it's something that actually a lot of Bournemouth fans, admittedly, that there was some that made me thinking that he's not quite the right person, the style won't quite work. But I think I saw a lot saying, let's do it. I hope this happens, because you kind of expect Bournemouth to try and be sort of that ambitious attacking side that's got a real sort of belief, togetherness, drive. Bielsa brings that in spades. So that was really positive to hear that the club were kind of looking that direction. When that kind of tailed off, it's very obvious that Gary would get the job full time. There were clear reasons as to why that happened. Obviously, the club were happy with the work he did before the World Cup break. They do truly believe that there's a really good, really good young coach there, which, admittedly needs moulding. I think my main issue was that he didn't put enough experience around him. To be honest, I think that was maybe a mistake. But hey, 4 wins from 8, he can look back now and say, well, it's working all right. It's not doing too badly, is it? But I was surprised at the decision, to be honest. It's kind of follows a trend, sort of recent seasons of Bournemouth sort of promoting internally, not quite working. You think, look, come on, new ownership. Are we gonna sort of slip back to old habits, or kind of push ahead and try and forge this sort of bright new future? And it was kind of an interesting step to take. I think me initially, my sort of point of view, looked like sort of a backward step. I think O'Neill deserves credit for what he did during the interim spell, but when he got the full-time job, it's a very different thing to then start suddenly planning long-term, implementing your vision. What is a Gary O'Neill team? How do they play? I think still to this day, I'm struggling to kind of answer that. He's obviously got clear sort of, automatisms and sort of a structure and the way he wants his players to do things in certain positions. But yeah, that sort of overall picture is still quite unclear, and I'm hoping that kind of unfolds and shows itself with time. But yeah, I mean, it's been a mixed job. If he keeps Bournemouth up, it's a job well done, you have to say. But the manner in which it's being done is kind of what frustrates supporters the most. Like you say, I've taken issue with his game management, tactical errors before games, during games, that kind of sway results against Bournemouth, and you think, well, that was actually quite avoidable. That's quite frustrating. Some of the things he said in the media have kind of made supporters sit back and sort of go, wow, have you really just said that kind of thing? So yeah, it's been sort of fits and starts. I do think there's a promising coach there. I really do. I do like some of the tactical ideas he's tried to implement. However, he has kind of also undermined himself with some of the things he's said, some of the things he's done. So it's a big decision for the club when they get to the end of the season, stay in the Premier League, hopefully, to say, are we going to give him another year, or are we going to sort of start with a clean slate? And I'd be leaning towards a clean slate. I have no issues with Gary personally. He's been nothing but great to me, to be honest, which is always good when you're trying to forge a sort of relationship with a manager. You see probably more times than your partner, to be honest, as I did. So yeah, but it's just kind of like some big decisions to be made, and I don't know if Gary O'Neill is the one to sort of lead Bournemouth into that hopefully bright new future. But I do have to say, currently the job he's doing, especially over the last few weeks, deserves some credit, to be fair. If he keeps Bournemouth up, fair play to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never said that Gary O'Neill can't keep Bournemouth up. I don't think we're one of the 3 worst teams in this league. So it's all about the progression, the future, the new ambition. If this was under the previous ownership, I would have completely understood it. We've seen it before, but I thought it was a really good opportunity to say all those things about what you want to do with the club and then really push that to the limit with potentially a Bielsa or someone else. But look, the other thing I would say is I agree with you in regards to what happens at the end of the season. Stay up, don't stay up. I'm still in the same feeling that I think we need to progress without O'Neill. I actually would like to keep O'Neill at the club, but he's had such a period now as learning as a head coach that his vision is probably to stay at that sort of level, whether it's with Bournemouth or someone else. But definitely a big conversation to be had. We do need to set the record straight, though, just for Stephen Warnock. Philip Billing was worked out by Jonathan Woodgate, not by Gary O'Neill. All right. Gary O'Neill's actually taken him out from his best position, then realised put him back at Leicester, and he scores again. So, yeah, do let us know in the comments your feelings on Gary O'Neill and what you think should happen at the end of the season. Players, then, Dan, that we need to talk about, players that we need to impact between now and the end of the season. Games are on now. Look, let's talk about Dom Solanke. This is a player 3 years ago that I said he's not a natural goal scorer. He's not a natural number 9. He won't score 20 goals unless he becomes more ruthless, more selfish, and aims for the inside of the post rather than just shooting. I felt like he developed really well in the 2 years in the Championship, and this was his moment. I feel a little bit sorry for Dom Solanke because I felt like first game, he's being played out of position to get Kieffer Moore in, but we all understand that Kieffer Moore had such a good impact at the end of that Championship season. He then gets an injury, never missed a game in the Championship, so that was unusual to him for a few seasons. And then he got the goal at Forest, but he's scoring about 1 every 7 games. So, Dan, really, we get 1 more goal out of Dom Solanke. And if it's the goal that keeps us up, all the fans, I'm sure, will forgive him. And fans do love Dom Solanke. I think he is still a fan favourite, but there are some fans that are really struggling for patience with him now. Again, missed a good chance at Leicester. And this is again, Dan, where I think an exceptional, experienced coach could find a way, because I think that Dom is starting to snatch at his shooting again. And he's not confident in front of goal for all of his efforts and all of the team play he gives us.
He's definitely snatching at chances. To be honest, he's not really provided with I guess I kind of split the season into 2. So sort of first half of the season, he was kind of being presented with chances every now and then and would manage to score from a moment of kind of individual quality, a cheeky flick, acrobatic sort of overhead kick or whatever. So you're looking at those moments and you think, wow, there's something beneath the surface there of a number 9 that has quality, but kind of it's quite frustratingly switches between hot and cold far too often to be a consistent, regular, proven, leaned upon Premier League number 9, I have to say. And then the second half of the season, since the World Cup break, been snatching at chances. I don't think there's a lot of confidence there. Like he busts a gut for the overall team effort, which is great. Defensively, he's diligent. He presses from the front. I remember O'Neill saying after the draw at Fulham that Bournemouth's press was very much entirely based around trying to release Dom down the channels, and that was actually kind of really, really successful for that sort of first half of that game. So he's obviously got a very important role in O'Neill's tactical blueprint, but ultimately your job is to score goals as a striker, and he doesn't score enough. And you think since the new additions have come in and Bournemouth have kind of revamped that attacking line a little bit, they are creating more chances now, more consistent chances than they were before, and you're not seeing more goals. And you think, well, what are the main issues behind that? And like you say, snatching at chances, even sometimes the technique is a little bit off, and I think massively that probably comes down to confidence. But also, you do have to answer a question. Obviously, you scored plenty of goals in the Championship, but we all know it's a massive step up to the Premier League, where you're playing against some of the best centre halves in the world. They'll keep you busy. They'll keep you with your back to goal, and we all know that Dom's got qualities in certain areas, but I don't see him making those runs enough, sort of back post runs, little 6-yard sort of sprints across, where they'll get you 5-10 extra goals a season. I don't see that instinct. And you think, you know, is he maybe better, like you say? He looked a bit shoehorned in and around Kieffer more at the start of the season, but is he maybe better playing that role off someone else that's sort of a bit more of that poacher role? Because I think you look at Dominic Solanke at the moment, you don't think you get any more than 10 Premier League goals a season, even if there was an uplift for next season. So I think if you're Bournemouth, you stay up and you think, well, we need a proven goal scorer, we need more, because we've got a lot of players behind Dom that are young, inexperienced, adapting, learning, again, quite raw. You're not seeing many guaranteed goals in that team, and that's been an issue for Bournemouth all season. So this summer, again, big decision to make maybe. Obviously, Dom's got a real part to play at the club. Lovely bloke. The squad love him. O'Neill keeps saying about how they're working with him to make sure he scores more goals. I'm not really seeing any proof of that. So it's an issue that Bournemouth have to solve. You're looking at the coaching staff now, and you see him in shooting drills and training and warm-ups. He's hitting the target with consistency, but in the actual games, it's just not quite happening. So I think maybe first try and fix the confidence. If that kind of falls into place and there's still not more goals, then arguably you're looking at, well, can we really lean on you? Again, that's a big decision to make, but it's ruthless at the top. If you can't quite crack it, then someone else has got to get that position. So we'll see what he can contribute, but you want more than one goal towards the end of the season, to be honest, to keep Bournemouth up, definitely. If he scores only one more, it's quite a disappointing tally. I think he would admit that himself.
What's about if it's at Southampton? If it's at Southampton, and I don't know if that relegates them. I think they got a couple of extra games, even if they lose everyone up to when we play them. But Don Solanke scores against Southampton. That will obviously win the hearts over the Cherries fans. But I do think you make a good point about the coaching team. For all of the coaching staff that we absolutely love, most of them are legends of the club. Tommy's one of my favourite ever players for Bournemouth. Steve Fletch goes down as an absolute legend, but never played at Premier League and at this level, Dan. And when I look about that again, I just look and I want to give Dom some support here, because I don't see a real Premier League experience and knowledge there to maybe help him. And that's where I'm sort of leaning towards.
Yeah, I think there's kind of things in the structure that don't really play to Dom's strengths. He's brilliant at sort of holding the ball up, rolling his man, running off the shoulder. He does get into really promising positions, but from there, attacks kind of fizzle out. They stutter. It's not always him, but I will have to say there's been quite a few baggy touches from him that have kind of killed attacks as well. So again, I don't know what that comes down to, various reasons, but yeah, I don't know if you just need an experienced arm around his shoulders. But you look at Steve Fletcher, like, how many goals did he score? Like, the man made a living of scoring hundreds of goals, and you think, well, if he can't, I know it's different in the Premier League, but for me personally, I don't see that ruthless killer instinct you need to score loads of goals as a Premier League number 9. I don't personally see that at the moment. I see loads of other qualities that obviously justify him remaining at the club, of course, and having a massive role moving forward. But as the out and out number 9 for a Premier League team, hopefully next season, I don't quite see it. I think there's definitely something to be looked at there. But yeah, like you say, it probably comes down to a little bit of the technical side of the game. Not a lot of chances, and the chances created aren't always glaring. But then on his side, there have been some real sort of glaring misses that obviously don't help the whole confidence issue, to be honest.
Now, someone that does have killer instinct, in my opinion, when he's high in confidence, is Kieffer Moore. And this was a player that signed from Cardiff last season. And I'm sure he said when he signed that this was his last maybe opportunity to play in the Premier League or get a shot at the top level. And when he is flying, Dan, he has killer instinct. He scored 2 goals against Tottenham. We got Tottenham this weekend, but Kieffer Moore has only played something like 1 minute in the last 600, whatever it is, and still is our second joint highest goal scorer for the team. And we've only got 8 goal scorers in the whole team, which is the lowest in the league. I do find it a bit strange that Kieffer Moore is not having more of a say under this permanent role of Gary O'Neill as head coach. Although I do understand, we just talked about Dom having to make way to fit him in and fitting players in and shoehorning and all that. But Kieffer Moore, I just think, can have a say in these last 8 games, because we're going to need to score more than 1 goal a game, probably.
Yeah, I don't think it's a sin to kind of shut the big man in the box and get a bit more direct, but yeah, I mean, Bournemouth have this weird thing where every time Kieffer Moore started, when he'd play, the crosses would be really, really bad or really low volume. And then when he wouldn't be on the pitch, suddenly there'd be these amazing crosses going to the box with sort of more directness, more quantity. And you think, well, it should be the opposite. It's always been a little bit confusing. But I'm equally surprised as to why he's not playing more of a role, to be honest. I think Kieffer Moore's great. He offers something that a lot of Premier League defenders don't necessarily deal with every week. Like, he's not just a big bruising centre forward. Like, at times he's surprisingly dainty with his feet. I like his movement. I like the way that he kind of gets the ball under control and sort of looks around. The 2 goals against Tottenham say it all. Like, there aren't many Premier League sort of centre forwards that can, crash into defenders like that, score goals, put their head on the line. Like, those 2 goals pretty much for me summed up what Kieffer Moore is. And you think, well, you've got that added dimension to your attack that actually, when games are drifting, like Villa maybe, games are drifting, it's not quite happening the way that they originally set out to do. There's no shame in changing it and getting a bit more direct, knockdowns, dominant around them, someone sniffing at his heels. That kind of stuff works week in, week out for other teams. So I'm surprised that Bournemouth aren't kind of leaning on that a little bit more. And it speaks volumes where he barely gets in the squad, to be honest. Semenyo seems to be fancied. Obviously, Semenyo deserves time. I've not been too impressed with what I've seen from Anton Semenyo so far. You think, well, Kieffer Moore surely got to at least get on the bench and be that option. But I think bringing him on like the 92nd minute of Villa when you're sort of 3 down already, kind of that says everything about the role that Kieffer Moore currently has, to be honest. And that'll be frustrating for him. And again, decisions to be made in the summer, really. But I think over the remaining games this season, I want to see more of him. And I truly believe he can have an impact. It's just surprising that he's not been given the minutes to sort of prove what he can do. Because we all know he's got quality. We've seen it. But it's an interesting one. I think over the last few weeks, that's been one of the main things that sort of made me, scratch my head a little bit, like what's going on there. But clearly he's out of the squad on merit. I think O'Neill believes so. Is there a way back in for him? We'll have to see. But I definitely want to see more of him. I think he's got goals in him, absolutely. And yeah, if he gets one headed goal, let's say against Southampton or whatever, he keeps Bournemouth up, then again, justified, isn't it? So yeah, he deserves more game time. Hopefully he gets it.
All these Ken Wynne-Jones moments we're waiting for. Just the one goal, and it will do it. I think it's absolutely madness that Kieffer Moore, as a minimum, is not on a bench when we know we're potentially going to need goals, because I don't clean sheets. I know we kept one at the weekend again. I know we've not kept many, but we're definitely going to need goals in this team. And as I said, only 8 throughout the whole team is not enough, really. So we're going to need to add value. We can't rely on Big Phil Bill every single week. Another position, couple of positions, as we head towards getting your thoughts very soon, Dan, about what you think Bournemouth will do between now and the end of the season and where you think we'll finish. But fullbacks, I think Smith has come under a lot of criticism. I think we all accept that Smith's best attributes in his best days were getting forwards, overlaps, adding goals, getting assists. And as the years have gone on, and I actually looked at his heat map from 2015 to 2023, Dan, and it's amazing. He was completely red from corner flag to corner flag. And now when you look at it, he's pretty much red in his own half, and it's a little bit amber outside of that. And he's not a player that I see that can adapt. So when I look at Simon Francis, he adapted to become a centre back, and he had different attributes, was a little bit taller, and that was comfortable for him. I don't see that with Smith. So this is a real key moment, because I think he's got a contract extension until 2024. So he's got another year under his belt. But I think right fullback is a position we need to look at. And on the opposite side, where Lloyd Kelly's currently occupying left back, and he's very much not an overlapping fullback, Jordan Zemura doesn't look like he's going to be signing a new contract either. That came out yesterday. 3 or 4 players to talk about there, Dan, but really I'm asking you about both fullbacks between now and the end of the season and next season.
Yeah, Adam Smith is kind of it's a shame to see how the last few weeks have gone. I think, clearly he's probably quite frustrated with his performances, and that maybe shows some of the reactions we've seen after games and that kind of stuff. That is a really unnecessary kind of side story for a club that needs to be unified to stay up. So I'm hoping that kind of goes away. But yeah, I don't see a player that can easily adapt. I think even when he plays, kind of if Bournemouth play a 5 and he drops in as a sort of an auxiliary centre half, I don't see someone that's comfortable there. I see someone that does get quite beaten quite easily when the ball was kind of played sort of inside to out beyond him. It's something that he's not quite. I mean, we saw it against Brighton, and we've seen it again a couple of weeks before that. I think it happened against Fulham as well. It didn't lead to a goal, but he's kind of, that ball tends to bypass him quite easily. That must be quite frustrating. In his shoes, where yes, it's not easy to adapt. You lose your turn of pace. You ain't got that power off your heels that allows you to burst down the touchline. We do see him actually in recent weeks. He's kind of overlapped a little bit more than maybe we've seen, which is promising. And as a result, he's had shots. He's kind of got crosses in the box. That's what we want to see. But you get older, your game changes. Like we saw it with Frano, and there was that adaptation to a centre back with Smothers. I don't see that. So definitely this summer, that's a position that needs addressing 100%. I don't doubt that he's an important player in the dressing room. Of course he is. He's a vice captain for a reason. So he's definitely got a big part to play moving forward. But as an out-and-out starter, I think Bournemouth need to start looking long-term. Obviously, Jack Stacey isn't it. Ryan Fredericks isn't it. So definitely that's a position that needs addressing on that front. I think Stacey probably leave the summer. Fredericks just needs to get fit, to be honest. I haven't seen enough of him, to be honest. I've been quite impressed with him when he has played, but fitness is obviously an issue. And on the left, yeah, Lloyd Kelly, he's a certain type of left back, quite conservative in the way he plays, happy to kind of go direct, no overlapping. I think Bournemouth, as a trademark, need 2 overlapping fullbacks that are ambitious, direct, have that kind of speed. I think that for me is kind of like the Bournemouth blueprint. So I think Lloyd Kelly for now is doing a job, and that's great. But again, looking next summer and beyond, I want the kind of left back. If it's not going to be Jay-Z, and clearly it's not going to be Jay-Z, that can kind of take that mantle and overlap down that side a bit. Just on the Jay-Z story, I mean, hat tip to Jack Tanner for that yesterday. I'm disappointed with the way that's turned out. Like I tweeted, I said the grass isn't always greener. The club are very, very frustrated with the kind of failure to engage on the new contract offer that he got, which is believed to be around 30,000. And it's just like, I don't know if he's being poorly advised by his agent or if it's on his part, but it's kind of just common decency to engage on that front, really, especially for a club that's given you everything, a massive leg up in your career. I really do think that's disappointing. And Udinese are in talks, and everyone's kind of making these little comments like, "Oh, will he go on loan to Watford?" I just think you owe the club something. I really do. If you don't want to be there, fine. It's disappointing that Bournemouth probably won't get a fee for him as well. That's really, really disappointing. And the whole thing's just soured, and it's not something you want to see through, from a young lad that's come in and the fans love him. And I just don't think the way he's gone about it or his camp's gone about is the correct way. It's burned a lot of bridges, to be honest. There's no way back from this point. So that's a shame. So yeah, long story short, I think 2 positions need strengthening. So Bill Foley, he's got big pockets. So hopefully they're already looking for that kind of stuff. But again, these options that we've spoken about have a part to play in the squad. Absolutely. Apart from Jay-Z, that's not a thing anymore. So fair enough.
Yeah, I tweeted about Jay-Z as well. I mean, I put a tweet out saying 2% of academy players actually make it as a professional footballer at the elite level. And if you go back to that West Brom game, opening game under Scott Parker in the Championship, he was probably ahead of time getting a spot there. But because of the squad that we had at the time, and I think it was so stripped back and we didn't have a lot of availability, he was thrown in at the deep end. And he didn't look back. I remember him playing well at Bristol City, and he added goals, and he took it in his stride. And I know that we've heard all the lack of, or that he was probably the lowest paid player at the club or in the Championship or anything like that. But he is in his second full season. He's had some good moments this season. I think he struggled at times as well. 30 grand to me playing Premier League football in your second full season as a footballer, I think it's not too bad with bonuses as well. So really, yeah, a bit disappointed as well. I'm going to put it on agents. I don't want to put him in the same bucket as some other players where it's gone sour, like Ryan Fraser. Definitely not in that bucket for me. But I just hope Jay-Z doesn't look back on this as a moment that really he didn't deal with it very well, or he just listened to the advice that was incorrect, because I think he was on a good sort of transition up, and he was doing very well. And yeah, it's sad to see the fans are gutted, but Bill Foley's got the money, and I think we can fill that position. It's not a player that you'll rip and Phil Billing out of this side. It's not quite that. So yeah, again, tell us your thoughts in the comments about Jordan Zemura. And very, very briefly, Dan, I mean, Vinya, if he's not playing now in this team, when you've got a centre-back playing left-back and you're at Leicester, and for me, one of the weakest teams in the league, I don't see where Vinya gets in this squad. But it also does feel a little bit Bournemouth to me.
It does. Yeah, it is. It's very Bournemouth, bless him. Yeah, I think barely played. When he has played, it's kind of been like as a late sub to try and see a game out, or add a little bit of thrust down the left. There's definitely a good player there, but even at Roma, when he left, the fans weren't too upset, which kind of says it all about that sort of hanging in a bit of state of limbo in his career at the moment. Evidently, his sort of more long-term club won't be Bournemouth. I think it was wise to bring him in for a very cost-effective option. But he's just, down the pecking order behind Lloyd Kelly, obviously before that behind Jay-Z. So that's just the way it's gone. I do believe that the club basically just won't make it permanent. There's literally no point in barely seeing him, to be honest. But as a squad option, it kind of worked. It was all right. So we will wish him well on his return to Roma in the summer. And we'll keep an eye on his next move, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know how confirmed it is, but I also see a few tweets saying that the club are not going to take up the option of buying him. So I'm not sure if that's completely true or not, but it wouldn't surprise me. There's no reason why we would, because we've not seen him apart from a little run against Liverpool up the pitch. So that's that. So we're currently 15th in the Premier League then, Dan. Results seem to be going our way. I know that Crystal Palace are working something out, trying to get themselves out of it. I don't think they were really in it. The league says they were, but I do think Leeds are in trouble. I think Forest have been in trouble for weeks. Southampton will be a miracle if they come out of it. And when you look at Bournemouth's final batch of games, and you can see a couple of wins there against Fulham and Leicester, a loss against Brighton. But Dan, we've got Spurs at the weekend, West Ham at home, Southampton away, Leeds at home, Chelsea at home, Palace away, Man United at home, and Everton away. Now, I think 35 is enough. I've been saying that for quite a long time. 2 wins will get us 36. I think there's 2 winnable games there, maybe a couple of draws as well. I think actually not staying up would be quite a bit of a downfall.
From the position that they're in now, it would definitely be a real underachievement to have gone down. I can definitely see the games in which they can take those points. I do think I'm a bit worried that 35 may not be enough, but that's definitely the benchmark. I feel like this season maybe it might be just a point or 2 more. I don't know. I really don't know. I hope not for the sake of the club, to be honest. But I'm confident they will get to 35. Obviously, Spurs away. I mean, they're kind of in a weird patch at the moment. I think if you just go there and sit and try and frustrate them, maybe. But I don't know. The games away at the big teams. Obviously, nothing's a free hit this season. And I hate that term, to be honest. But it's going to be a tough one. It really, really is. You've got West Ham at home. Massive, massive game. West Ham have this weird tendency of sort of getting a game that keeps Moyes on the job and then sort of drifting, and the fans get really frustrated. Then again, they go and beat Fulham away, that kind of game. So not easy, but home, you're looking at points there, definitely. Just looking down, Saints away. I mean, that's a big one. I think I do think they're down and out, to be honest. They've had a shambolic season. They really have. Don't score enough goals, and defensively, all over the shop. Sorry, Jacob.
He thinks they're down as well. He thinks they're down as well. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Leeds at home, again, massive game. I mean, they shipped 5 to Palace, didn't they? So again, there's vulnerabilities there that Bournemouth can exploit. Chelsea at home, I don't even know what Chelsea currently are at the moment. Shambles. So again, at home, crowd behind Bournemouth, almost at the finish line. maybe something might happen. And then, sort of Palace, tricky. Roy Hodgson seems to have doing absolute wonders at Palace, so fair play to him. I do admit I like the bloke. I'm pleased for him, but I don't know if there's a new manager bounce or he's genuinely just come in and just told the wingers, like, go on lads, do whatever you want. But they're so much better now. United at home, tricky in the last game of the season. You'd hope that it's already done and dusted by then. Yeah. If it isn't, obviously it's a difficult game, but I just bad memories of Everton away when everything sort of goes down to the wire. So not again. We don't want that. I'm hoping by that stage it's done. I'm confident it will be. I'm weirdly confident that it will be. To be honest, I feel like there's too much kind of positivity and togetherness in that dressing room now to kind of crumble and not get where they need to go. And I feel like O'Neill's kind of struck a decent enough balance that there'll be low points, but I think they'll go over the line, to be honest. So from where they were, you're saying, you know what, fair play, done a good job. I think any fans, if you'd have said you will stay up, it will be difficult. You will sack your manager, you'll get a takeover and this kind of stuff, but you will stay up. I think everyone would have bitten your hand off for that, to be honest. So, I mean, what a season. I think just to round off, what a season. But yeah, I'm confident they'll do it and I'll be delighted. I really, really will.
So you think Bournemouth will stay up? Because we're going to be optimistic. And as I said, not staying up from here actually doesn't seem right to me. Do you have 3 teams in mind that you think will get relegated?
So just looking at the table now, it seems to change every week. Saints gone. Forest, I think, will go. I think they might sack Steve Cooper, but I don't know if that's the right choice. Leicester, I think they might scrape it. I think their squad's too good. And admittedly, like, that isn't the only thing that kind of like saves you from relegation, but I think they might scrape it. Dean Smith now in charge. Everton, I think Dyche will probably keep them up. Leeds, it's really difficult to say. I think West Ham, Bournemouth, fine. Wolves, fine. Leeds, I think will get enough points. Everton, I think will scrape it. So
you're putting Leicester back in then, surely?
Yeah, I actually
think
am
it's
now.
between Leeds and Leicester.
It's a real ship to turn around. I kind of feel like that squad, as we saw at the weekend, there's no fight. There's just, I don't get it. There's really quality, like really, really talented players and the squad's good, but it's just nothing in the tank. I don't know what it is. Like, they're just drifting. And sometimes, even though you shake things up, you can't reverse that ship. So, all right, I think the current bottom 3 will go down. I will be surprised if Leicester go down, but I just think I fancy the teams above them to kind of scrape points more than they do. But yeah, we're set for a blockbuster end of the season. I just hope that Bournemouth aren't in it because I'd quite like to enjoy my weekends and not have a heart attack, to be honest. So yeah, we'll see.
Absolutely, totally agree. And whatever Gary O'Neill's vision is of how he's going to become a head coach, how his teams are going to play, I think he needs to wait until the end of this season to think about that because he knows what works now. Surely the learning has stopped to this point. We know how we can get wins, how we can get points. Let's put players in the right positions. Let's play the way that benefits us. And I think there's definitely at least 2 winnable games out there. I think with the 35 points, Dan, I think in my head, weeks and weeks and weeks ago, I was just trying to get a number in there that's achievable. And it's definitely achievable now. So, but you're absolutely right. 38 is normally the target at the start. Anything between 35 and 38, I think we'll do it. Dan, it's been fantastic to speak to you. Look, this is another opportunity for you to thank any of the fans that have checked out your content, checked out your tweets. You're not going to stop tweeting. I don't think you're going to be behind Cherries till the end of this season. Yeah, a little moment for you just to say thank you again for the season up to this point. And we're gutted it's not going to continue to the end.
I'm equally gutted, to be honest. I'm disappointed with, stepping away and not being able to, be in the press box and engage with fans and kind of had all these nice pieces kind of, potentially working away, but it's just the way things go. I'm stepping away happy. I'm proud with how we dealt with the majority of the season. It's not been easy. I've pulled some really long days, but it's all been worth it. I've done it with a smile on my face. And the main reason why is because I know that it's going to a fan base that honestly deserves the world. And it's a real shame to see the club not receiving the publicity and the coverage that they deserve, because some of the best sort of human stories and that kind of stuff, the stuff that I like to read about, has all come from Bournemouth. And having lived down here all my life and growing up next to the club, and that I've seen it, and to have been able to have immersed myself in it and try to write a semi-coherent piece on some of it has just been, yeah, the biggest pleasure and privilege of my career. And I won't forget it. And I have no plans to go anywhere. I'll still be following Bournemouth for the rest of the season. I'm in way too deep now to get out, so I'll be down in the Vitality. Ideally with a beer in my hands, and I could just enjoy the games with no pressure. That'd be nice. But yeah, I'll make it down before the end of the season. That's a promise. Anyone that sees me, please say hi. And I just want to thank everyone that's engaged in my content. You know, I've had differing opinions to people, and we've had conversations, debates, and that's honestly, it's been a real privilege. And yeah, I'm stepping away with a big smile on my face, and that says it all. So yeah, I'll miss it. I want to say thank you. The reaction to my post has just been incredible. I never would have expected to have made, you know, that bond with the fan base. And yeah, I'll just round off by saying I think the fan base deserves more, and I just hope that, you know, Bournemouth continue to punch above their weight, little old Bournemouth, and stay in the Premier League and just go on to achieve amazing things. And I'll be there every step of the way. I can't wait to see what the future holds, both professionally for myself and also for the club. And yeah, Kirk, it's been a pleasure to have come on a few times this season. Thank you for having me, and we'll stay in touch as well, mate. Definitely.
Thank you so much, Dan. And you've always been very kind when we have come to you and asked you to give an input into any video. You've always been very, very generous in giving us your time. And I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone when we say thank you for the content. Look, do show Dan some love in the comments and just put them in there. Dan will read them. I promise he'll read them. And I tell you what, Dan, you're always welcome on here. If you want to come on here between now and the end of the season, we'd love to have you on here. The offer's always there. And yeah, definitely stay in contact.
Will do. Yeah, I'd love to come back on, definitely. I've got all these opinions that I can now just freely say, so it's all right. Yeah, I'll be back on for the end of the season. We'll work something out. Nice one.
Yeah, it's always the best way. It's how I'm made, unfortunately. I just have to say how it is. Do subscribe to Cherries Red Army. We've gone past 1.5k. Also hit the like button and put those thoughts in the comments about anything that me and Dan have discussed, and do show Dan some love. But from this video until the Spurs preview, we'll see you on the next one. Up the Cherries.